Hello again my friends, this is the Boy Needs Dog and welcome to the channel where I talk about, play, rank and review games on the Evercade old and new. In today's episode I asked you guys to give me suggestions on older collections to review while we wait between new releases. So first up is the Home Computer Heroes Collection 1. So this will be a complete review of the cart including each of the games, but I will be going through the games in my ranking order, least to most favourite. This cart surprised me a lot. I had fun with every title. This whole collection has ended up being a bigger bang overall than I thought going in. Love it when that happens. And when it came to ranking the 7 titles, games I initially thought would be at the top and the bottom have shifted around so much. As I went through, I surprised myself with my final placements, but will I surprise you? Home Computer Heroes Collection 1 is for home computers, exactly what the Indie Heroes Collection series is for console games. A collection of 7 modern indie games for microcomputers including the Commodore 64, Amiga and MSX2. I hope this is the start of another series and we get more collections going forward. There is a decent variety here. We've got action, real-time strategy, simulation, platform up, first person shooter and 2D scrolling shooter. I have actually, if you go back far enough, reviewed 2 of the titles present here, so when we get to them in the ranking I'll mention that. I'll probably have a bit less to say on those games because of this. We better get stuck in. Number 7. And in 7th place is Bridge Strike. A solo playing vertical scrolling shoot 'em up developed by Project R3D, or is that Red, and released in 2019. I have already reviewed this title separately, so I'll just cover the basics here. This is basically an iteration of River Raid, which is never a bad thing. It's a fun little game where you shoot down boats, helicopters and bridges as you negotiate a not too tricky landscape on a forward scroll. You can pick up pace by pushing forward or slow down by holding back on the D-pad. You'll constantly need to fill your fuel gauge as you go by flying over enemy tankers, so be careful not to blow them up unless you have enough fuel, in which case do blow them up for extra points. There are random weather conditions that only change things up slightly. It's a very fun game, but what you see in the footage is what you get on loop. So a blast to come back to now and then, but maybe not as much meat on the bones as other titles in this collection. And so, as much fun as it is in last place. Sorry Bridge Strike, you are with too many gems, my friend. Number 6. And in 6th place is Tanks Fury. It's an action game for 1 to 4 players simultaneously, also developed by Project R3D and released in 2016. And as with 7th place, I reviewed this game individually when the collection first came out, so I won't go into huge detail here. You can play solo, 2-player cooperatively, or up to 4 players head to head. There is a hell of a lot of fun to be had here, especially with a friend. Solo play also has quite a bit going for it, with difficulty levels too for an extra go around. But in solo play I think you only play for so long. Multiplayer of course could bring you back many more times, as it's quite the fun thing. But again, like Bridge Strike, this is more of a fun blast than anything too deep. I did enjoy it a lot though. Number 5. And in 5th place is Planet X2. A solo playing real-time strategy game developed by the 8-Bit Guy and originally released in 2023. Now I'm going to have to start this by saying, as I've got older I have to a degree gone off real-time strategy games, but there are occasional exceptions, and it turns out this is one of those exceptions. After my first few attempts, I thought this is probably going to be in 7th position. Not because it's a bad game, but because it's just not for me. But after sitting down and getting my head around the whole thing, there's a handy guide on the Evercade blog, by the way, I started to change my opinion. There's a charm to this game that grabbed me for quite a while. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to destroy every enemy pyramid on the map before the enemy destroys all your factories. The first hurdle are the controls. What does what? There are a lot of things you can do, and actually they are all laid out pretty well across the buttons of the Evercade controller once you get used to them. To switch between units, press start and choose who you want to use if they are on the same screen. Select is your hotbar to go to any units you have out in the field which aren't on the screen. R1 is the button to activate any action, and a mixture of the face buttons and L1 with the face buttons to select these different actions. Thankfully, your options will appear in a window on the right to help you remember what does what. Selecting your factory gives you options to create builders and tanks and process minerals. These can take time to perform, so you need to take that into account. Selecting a tank, and you have a few options: go for a drive and shoot enemies, or stick your legs in the ground and turn your tank into a sentry, which will auto shoot anything around. It's good to get a number of these around your factory to protect it, because when the factories go, it's game over. Builders are probably the most important piece. They can bulldoze small rocks out of the way, move larger ones, gather minerals to take to the factory for process, and build so much. From solar panels to gain and store power, refineries have a gas vents, and great for defense, you can build walls, which you should be building around your base. Sentries can shoot over them, so make sure they are kept behind walls for some protection. Now once everything is all set up, you need to find where the enemy pyramids are and destroy them. First, you need to work out where they are and note down their coordinates. You can blow up tanks near them to damage them, but the safest and most powerful option is to build missile silos. Then, build each rocket before sending it off to destroy the enemy pyramid base. This is why you needed to jot down the coordinates, as you have to manually enter them to direct the missile to its destination. Once all enemy pyramids are destroyed, you win the map and it's game over. Time to choose the next one. The only downside is, once you know where the pyramids are on a given level and their coordinates, it will always be there on subsequent playthroughs. So it becomes almost like a cakewalk, but that doesn't take away from the many playthroughs you go through trying to find them. And there is a good chunk of different layouts to choose from, and difficulty options too. Honestly, start off easy to slowly ease yourself into the game while learning the options. It really does help. I ended up really getting into this game, much more than I thought. It's a shame the enemy pyramids aren't random in place, but that's a small complaint. There are enough other stages to keep you busy for a while, and the higher difficulty levels will definitely give you a challenge when you first pass through them. Give this game time and you may be surprised how much you enjoy it. Number 4. And in 4th place is Attack of the Pesky Robots. A solo action game developed by the 8-bit guy, the dude behind the awesome Planet X2, and originally released in 2021. Just like Planet X2, I wasn't sure about this game at first, but after digging into a fair bit, I started to see the fun it offers. Your goal is to infiltrate a decent amount of human settlements that have been taken over by robots and defeat every single one before you're allowed to walk out and complete the map. Two tiny downsides out the way: the movement is a little jerky and it may put you off a bit, but I promise after a while you don't even notice it really. And even though there are a lovely amount of different maps to choose, the colour palette never changes, and you could, from watching this video, think all the footage was from the same place. But again, it's a tiny niggle in quite the enjoyable package. The point of the game is you can't go in all guns a-blazing. That is a ticket to death. What you have to do is think about each encounter. Is there anything about that could help? Could you move chairs around and trap the enemy so you can shoot it without it hurting you back? That actually helps in quite a few situations, but sometimes that simply isn't enough. Thankfully, the most basic enemy robot will not hurt you until you attack it, which is a huge help. But be warned, there are other types and they are aggressive as feck. But you can use this aggression against them. For example, trick them into shooting an explosive container and taking themselves out. Or you can be a chicken and shoot them through a window. Yep, that works. But what gives this an almost impossible mission spin, you can search almost everything and there are many treats to find. Guns, better guns, magnets that when used twice on the same robot will trap it in place. There are EMPs that knock robots out for a short time, and there are time bombs. So many different ways to try and destroy these metal buggers. It's all about experimenting and finding the best route. A quick save is your friend when you're about to try something probably quite silly, but if it works, you just never know. A nice little addition is the map, but that you can still move while on the map. Seeing a little flashing dot move around the map is quite the fun thing and makes it so much easier to know where you are and plan where to go next. It's little things like this that elevate the game. There is a great choice of maps, some more fun than others. I especially like that one set on various little islands. It was fun to work my way around each one at a time, destroying all those bloody metal buggers. One funny thing, you can't take items outside buildings, and if you try and move them to the doorway, you will trap yourself inside. Dumb me, thought I had ruined my game and would have to reset. But if you have bombs, you can blow it out the way. If you haven't, you may have just trapped yourself. So keep that in mind while playing. Overall, I really enjoyed this game, trying to work out how to dispatch every robot. It was fun. Whenever I started a new map, it was like a new playground to explore. As with games like this, once you know how to clear a map, you always know, so subsequent playthroughs will be much easier. But again, with difficulty levels and lots of maps, you will have to change up your playstyle quite a bit across it all. So there's lots of reasons to come back. It's just a great game. Number 3. And in third place is Farming Simulator C64 Edition. A solo playing simulation developed by Christian Amann of Giant Software and originally released in 2018. I know you thought this would be number 1, didn't you? And for a time, so did I. Farming Simulator C64 Edition is an 8-bit adaptation of the popular series released on modern consoles and computers. Yeah, they sell really well. They are chill as feck, as is this. You have 4 vehicles to drive, but instead of cycling through them, they are assigned to a different button, which is helpful from the start as you can switch to whichever one you want instantly. Pressing X gets you the red tractor with the plough, pressing Y gets you the green tractor with the seeder, pressing L1 gets you the green harvester, and pressing R1 gets you the blue tractor with the trailer. The game is simple enough, though it does take a bit to get used to the controls, especially turning as you pass by objects and scenery. You will hear that beep, beep, beep a lot in the opening hours. Use the red tractor to plough through the field, switch to the green to seed it, then switch to the harvester to harvest. Once your harvester is full, bring over your final tractor with the trailer to fill the trailer with seed. But it only fills up 50% of the trailer, so fill your harvester up to max to get the last 50%, and then you're finally ready to make the trip to the local silo to sell all the seeds you've gained. This is how you get your money, honey. On the way back, it wouldn't hurt to fill up your fuel. Each vehicle needs to be topped up on fuel, and it ain't cheap. And neither are seeds. Be careful when landing on the silo square, where you also buy seeds. You can't ask for an exact amount, it will just keep going up until you move off the square, and it can drain your funds without thinking. If you run out of fuel on any vehicle, seeds or money, it's game over. So do not linger any longer than you have to on the squares. At the start of the game, this is something you very much have to think about. But when you've done that first area a fair few times, you will have enough funds to seed the entire larger field, and it's quite satisfying. It's also satisfying cutting it all down again. At this point, there really isn't anything to worry about unless you're being really dumb. You'll always have enough of everything and enough money if anything gets low. But when you reach this part of the game, there isn't really anything else to do except for rinse and repeat. But did that stop me jumping back in and playing again a few times anyway? No, it did not. Now, they could have added such simple things to extend this game and make me play indefinitely, like maybe upgrades for the vehicles, like being able to carry more harvest or faster moving vehicles, or maybe flashier, newer models. Maybe add in little goals, like make this amount of money or sell that amount of harvest, or unlock a new field to play on. I know they wanted to take this game right back down to basics, making it easy to pick up and play, but a tiny bit of depth to keep me playing would have been awesome. Though saying that, as stated, I still kept playing it long after there was probably any point. And that is why it's in third place. But with those extras I mentioned, it could have easily been first place. It wouldn't have taken much at all. Why do I love this stupid game so much? Was supposed to jump on the game for 5 minutes just to record some footage for this video. And 2 hours later, I'm thinking, shit, I've still got 3 more games to record footage from. So yeah, I loved every minute of this silly stupid game. It's just the lack of depth that stops me putting it higher up the ranking. Number 2. And in second place is Citadel We Monstered. A solo first-person shooter developed by Virtual Design and originally released in 2022. You are the sole survivor of a spacefaring expedition sent to investigate the mysterious Citadel. Your mission is to work your way through the Citadel and locate 6 parts of a bomb, which you must ultimately use to blow up the Citadel core, and of course, make your escape. The game won me over somewhat before I even started playing with its awesome, very Amiga-y opening cinematics. It was such a wonderful treat, and I love they went the extra mile to include this. It really set the scene for me and took me right back to my younger days with the Amiga. Now, first off, for a first-person Amiga game, this is quite the impressive piece. It moves well, is detailed, even hanging bloodied corpses and the like, and you can enlarge the image, which is actually great for portable, on EXP or Super Pocket. I do prefer the smaller screen though on the VS. The game is easy to control and moves smoothly, even when there's a lot going on. As even though there are many moments of quiet while exploring, there are other times when you're being completely bombarded in every direction. You need to know going in, this is a very hard game. It takes enough just to clear the initial 3 levels of the basement before you even venture into the main part of the building. But it's good training for what is to come. And speaking of training, there are training missions on the front menu, but I will admit I found some of them harder than the main bloody game. Doing level 1 of the main game is definitely the best place to learn what the game has to offer, in my opinion. And as for the game, it's your usual wandering about a labyrinthian map, slowly opening the stage up by flicking switches and jumping through teleports. Beware, there is a teleport in the very first area that has an insane destination, but insane rewards too. Make sure to carefully click the switch behind it without jumping in, and make sure you have enough ammo and health before jumping through too. You will find a bit of wandering around if you fail to notice a switch or use a door you've not realised you've unlocked before, but at least I never found it frustratingly so, and it taught me to check every nook and cranny before moving on or searching a new direction. With this, the map does help as it's slowly created as you move around, which I always love, but if it's a hidden switch somewhere, even that won't help. You need to be vigilant. This really is a fun but ridiculously hard game, and I must admit I haven't completed it as yet, but I'm getting there and I feel I've played enough to give me an opinion. The fact I keep going back to try again is a good indicator of the game's appeal. One day I'll get there. Oh yes, one day. Number 1. And in first place, it had to be, there's only one left, it's The Sword of Iana. A solo playing platformer developed by Retroworks and originally released in 2017. As brave Jerkum, descendant of legendary warrior Tukaram, I'm sure I've pronounced that wrong, and heir to the goddess Iana's sacred sword, you must depart on a quest to overcome chaos and restore order. Sounds simple enough, eh? Look, I'm as surprised as you, but there's just something about this game. All the neat little touches that just won me over. To begin with, your character has loads of lovely little animations as he interacts with the world. When he runs, pulls out and swings his sword, leaps and grabs onto ledges. Each animation really adds to his character, making him feel more alive. There are 2 modes of control in the game, exploration and fight mode, which you can switch between with B or L1. This gives you more control in both modes as it frees up buttons, and it makes it easier to play once you get the hang of it. It very much reminds me of the original side-scrolling 2D platformer Prince of Persia, except in that you automatically went into fight mode when you're near an enemy. But all the lovely animations do nod to that too, and great games after, like Heart of Darkness. Oh, could we ever get that gorgeous game on the Evercade? It's bloody beautiful. Anyway, back to the game. There's even a levelling up system of sorts. As you kill enemies, a bar slowly fills until it reaches the top, increasing your level. Then the bar resets to the bottom once more. And there are various weapons to collect which you can switch between, and other items which come in very handy too. Just remember you got them, because I kept bloody forgetting. In this world, which is never overwhelmingly large, there are many walls to break and secret areas to find, pits to jump, ledges to run and jump to, and switches to pull. And boy, doesn't this game love you to pull switches. It will send you all one way to hit a switch to open a door, right back the other way, which will lead to a switch which will unlock the door you are next to now, and which you originally hoped the first switch would unlock. So I guess the game does artificially extend the game, with all the back and forth thing, but I was enjoying my time in the world so much I didn't really care. There are enemies dotted around throughout that slowly increasing levels themselves the deeper you go. From the start there's such great designs with goblins, mummies and skeletons. Each will have a different kind of attack pattern. You have to learn when to block and when to attack. The skeletons are particularly painful the first time you meet them, for me anyway. With both different enemy types and fun level design, I couldn't stop coming back to this fun, deeper than first appears game. It, in the end, easily became my first place because it's been such a hoot exploring this great world. Only had, I think, one niggle. There were a couple of places where it just wouldn't grab the ledge I wanted to, and I began to think I just couldn't do that there, even though it had to be there looking at how it was designed. But then, when I got in a specific point to jump, even though it didn't seem like the right spot, it worked. This only happened like twice, I think, that I recall, so it's hardly an issue, but teenily frustrating in the moment. So overall, a very enjoyable experience and a big recommend if you're into these types of exploration games. Every game in this collection I've been back to multiple times. One in particular I've been back to more times than I need to anymore. I know there's nothing more to see, I just can't help having a quick relaxing bash. It's a problem, I know, I'll get over it. I think this is a fine collection overall. There's no like big bang shining star here though, but they are all just really great fun, with your quick hitters in Tanks Fury and Bridge Strike, and much meatier titles like Citadel if you can get used to the difficulty, and pesky robots and Planet X2. And Farming Simulator can be as quick or as long depending on how mad you are, and I am quite mad. Red Dwarf reference there. And finishing off with Sword of Iana is a surprisingly deep platformer that will keep you busy for a while, especially trying to work out what to do next. Though I may not put this on a hot recommended list, it's not far off, as there for me is not a single dud in this whole collection. You can't really go wrong, and it's always nice to see indie games thriving on home computers as well as consoles. So what did you think of the Home Computer Heroes collection? Did you buy it? Did you like it? And how would you rank the games? As always, I always love to know your thoughts. And if you've made it here to the end of the episode, thanks ever so much for joining me. Leave a thumbs up or comment if you'd like. But if not, I'm still chuffed you poked your head in for a goosey gander. As always, I hope you're having the most awesomest of days, my friends. And until next time, be seeing you.